This is the Haulin Assets podcast, where we show you how to start and run your own trucking company. Ever wanted to go out on your own? Follow Chris as he goes through the highs and lows of running on his own authority.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Haulin Assets. This is episode number 116. We're doing a book review. Chris, we're moving into my territory.
This is your life.
That's right.
You understand how to do this.
Absolutely. Well, and it's to be fair, I have not actually read through this entire book. So now we're really on firm territory because I remember doing this a lot in high school, right? Doing a book report on a book you haven't read.
Cliff notes, yeah.
Now, he's Chris. Hi, Chris.
How you doing?
I'm not too bad. Good. I'm Craig, your host. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, everybody go to Haulin Assets LLC when it's safe to do so. Please don't do it while you're driving your rig down the road. But go to Haulin Assets LLC for full show notes. Especially on this one, I'm sure we'll have a link to the book that we're talking about, and other things that go in show notes, right? So haulinassetslllc.com. Also, make sure you go to motorcarrierhq.com for all of the tools, tips, and help that you need to make your own way as a brand new or, long-time owner-operator. So motorcarrierhq.com. Chris, am I missing anything?
I think you've covered it all.
All right. So today we are talking about a book. And that book, Chris, is titled...
Can't Hurt Me.
Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah,
okay.
There's more. Let me see if I can remember the rest of the title.
That's right, because it is, that's just the...
Can't Hurt Me is kind of that's the main part of the title, but it's Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind, and Defy the Odds by David Goggin.
Okay, David Goggin is a name that I have heard. Anyway, we are going to get into that, but Chris, I wanted to ask you, as I generally do, any tales from the road? Anything you want to tell me about?
Actually, you know what? I have my own tale from the road. Like, I actually got in the truck last week.
You did?
I did. Yeah, it was the first time in a little while.
Was this like an episode of Undercover Boss or?
No, but I had to go pick up a load for a driver that had some things going on. Nate had some things going on, and so I'm like, I ain't got time. I'll go jump in the truck and go grab it, and it was humbling.
Did you forget how to back up a truck, Chris?
How to back up a truck, yeah. It was the funny thing is, so the interesting thing here is, it was actually to the same place where I picked up my very first load ever.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a really easy place to back.
Unless you're you.
Unless you're me. And part of the problem was it was a partial blind back because I didn't take the time to go all the way to the end of the building and turn around and come back and so I could see where I was going. So I did a blind back, which, because it was such an easy, kind of big open space, it was not a very difficult blind back, but
an embarrassing one.
It took me a few pull forwards than it should have.
Were the guys
the guy in the next lane's all like,
were they laughing at you?
Who's this rookie?
At a certain point, you are a rookie again, right? It's never mind. I was going to make a virgin joke, but we'll save those for another time. It's
family friendly here.
It's been so long, it's worn off. But, okay, all right. So, but anything else, or was it just embarrassing?
That was just embarrassing.
Okay,
yeah,
you didn't ding anybody's trailer.
I didn't know. That's the most important part. Honestly, I don't care how many times it takes me to back something, as long as I don't hit anything. I'm okay. That becomes really embarrassing.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. How could it not? Yeah. All right. Well, anything else before we get into our topic for the day?
Actually, I am ready to talk about the incident I've been referring to for a while.
The story.
Are you interested? Do you want to hear about it?
No, not really.
I didn't hype it enough.
Let's hear it. Okay.
Right.
So what was the incident? Now, I want to set the stage here a little bit for those who, maybe skipped an episode or don't remember what we're talking about. There was an incident that happened. This was months ago. I want to say at least 3 months ago. Maybe more.
No, it was September.
Oh, it was.
So it wasn't couple months.
A couple months ago. Okay. And remind me, was somebody let go over this? Was this kind of a final straw situation?
He was definitely let go over this.
That's too bad.
It wasn't a final straw thing. It was his one and only thing. It was bad enough.
It was bad enough. And I don't want to make light of that. Like, that's not good for you guys, not good for the driver. It's that part is not funny.
No.
Okay, but all the same, I've been excited to hear this story for a long time because, yeah, you've been hyping it up. So what happened, Chris?
Well, I'm going to tell a little bit of backstory, kind of set the table a little bit. So back in August, we actually ended up having 2 trucks come open all at the same time. We had to let somebody go, and we had a driver that quit on us. And the driver that had quit on us kind of strung us along for a couple of weeks, led us to believe that he was going to come back. He was taking a little bit of an extended time off. So we didn't really do much. Obviously we weren't doing anything trying to find a replacement for him because we didn't know he wasn't going to come back. And so by the time that we kind of realized that, the other truck was open. We have 2 trucks sitting. One of them been sitting for a couple of weeks. And so it's to the point where, hey, we want to get these trucks moving sooner rather than later.
Right.
Even with that being said, like, we're still typically, you don't want to hire a bad driver because a bad driver can cause even more headaches down the road.
Tell me more about these headaches of which you speak.
So one of the drivers that we were screening was kind of going through a little bit of some challenges in his life, a little bit of turmoil. And so that kind of raised a few red flags for Nate and I. And we were both really on the fence with him.
Do you mind if I don't feel like we need to get actual details, but let me ask, if putting myself in the position of people who might be listening to this going, whoa, hang on a second. What happened to, being charitable? And just because somebody's going through a tough time doesn't mean it should be a red flag, right? So can you give us any hints or, any idea of what that means to you, that would be a red flag?
Well,
and why?
It was some, I wouldn't call it erratic behavior, but some just, when you've got somebody that you're going to start working with and they've got some things going on in their life, it has the potential to cause some disruption.
Right. Some overlap.
And so that's really kind of at that point more of what we're concerned about is kind of that, okay, is this going to disrupt our ability to operate? And yes, we're the kind of group that wants to be able to give people second chances and kind of take the benefit of the doubt on things. But we'll talk a little bit about kind of some of the lessons we learned at the end of the story.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go on. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. So, we're kind of trying to decide, we're on the fence. Do we want to hire him or not? And Nate and I decide, okay, we're close enough that we think as long as there's no driving issues with him, we'll hire him.
You got to do the drug test, all the stuff.
So we say, okay, we're going to start doing the screening processes that take money, like pulling his MVR, doing a clearinghouse, getting the drug test done, all those kind of things. And so we do all of that, pull his PSP report, drug test, clearinghouse, everything. And it's 100% clean. MVR is clean. No issues on the drug test, clean in the clearinghouse. Everything's looking good. And so Nate and I decided to roll the dice with him. And this is, by the time he actually starts driving, it's the first week of September.
Okay.
So he goes out on his first trip, and it's, fairly uneventful, kind of just the normal stuff that happens with a brand new driver as everybody's kind of getting used to our systems and kind of how we do things. Overall, it goes okay. Gets done with the first trip. And then, we send him out on the second trip. And at this point, we're kind of the third week or so into September. And the first load in that trip takes him from Idaho to Houston. No issues. Got something in my throat. Next load takes him from Houston to Albuquerque. Again, no issues. And then he picks up a load that takes him from Albuquerque to Ohio.
Okay.
And at this point, Nate is on his 2-week annual training with the National Guard. He's actually in Colorado.
Okay.
And I actually happen to be on orders, not for 2 weeks, but just for a few days doing some stuff with the military. And so one Wednesday morning, I'm on these orders, and I'm driving or riding in a vehicle that's going to a weapons range. And I'm with my brand new boss in the military, full bird colonel, going out to do what's really the first time that I'll have some kind of significant interaction with him. So I'm riding out to the range, and all of a sudden I see a couple Facebook messages come through on my phone. And usually I don't even check these things real time. I usually, like, once or twice a week, will go through and look at Facebook messages. Sometimes it goes weeks before I get a chance to kind of look at them, respond to them. Well, I don't have anything better to do. I'm riding out in the vehicle out to the range and see these come through. So I start looking at them. And the first one says, somebody just posted this video of one of your trucks. Just thought you should know about it. Hope everybody's okay.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't sound good. So I click on the link, and sure enough, I look at it, and there's one of our trucks on the road just swerving all over the road. Like horrible, like not even, like just terrible swerving. And so I'm like, what in the crap is this? Who is this? So I start messaging back to both of these people. The second message from another podcast listener says the same thing. And so I'm messaging back to these guys. Hey, can you give me any more details? Where was this? Tell me what's going on so that we can kind of track down what's going on. And a few minutes into this, I get a phone call. I see Nate come on, calling me. And so I pick up the phone, and Nate's all like, hey, so-and-so just got pulled over for DUI in Oklahoma City.
Oh no.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, mystery solved. We know who the driver is at this point. And luckily, so he had the police officer on the phone, patches him in, and the police officer starts giving us some details on kind of the situation, where everything's at this point. And so we get all this information, get the contact information for the officer, and right before the officer hangs up, he says, so he's probably going to be in jail for about 12 hours. Do you want him to be able to come back to the truck after he gets out of jail to finish the load? And like, I kind of had to pick my jaw up off the floor. I'm like, I can't believe this police officer's saying this. And I'm like, not only no, but hell no. He's not getting back in that truck. And the police officer, okay. And I honestly, like, I'm shocked that a police officer would actually ask that. Part of me wonders, like, was he trying to bait us into answering that?
No. Maybe.
But would they really want a guy like that to go back in a commercial vehicle that just exhibited that kind of behavior?
It's a good point.
So I don't, that question like surprised the heck out of me that he would even ask that.
Yeah, that is wild.
And the only reason I could think he'd ask it is because he's trying to bait us into saying, like, if we were going to say yes, then he'd probably either report it or prevent him from being able to get back in the truck. Because I mean, I don't think many trucking companies owners would do that, but it's been done.
Oh, sure.
So anyway.
Okay. All right. So how did you, we're going to get to, eventual consequences and whatnot, but how did you finish the load? What happened with the load? That's
interesting. So we'll get to that. Let's talk a little bit about the tow bill first.
Oh, geez.
This was a fun one. So interesting enough, we get the tow bill, $4,200. Oh. Guess how far they had to drive the truck and trailer?
35 miles.
6
miles.
That's not funny, Craig.
If that's not a racket, I don't think I've ever heard of one.
Almost $1,000 a mile. I mean, I wish we could charge our clients. I mean, I'd just take $100 a mile.
My gosh. This reminds me of, what was it, the best hooker in Oklahoma that you talked about way back when?
And so that makes me feel like the $1,900 that we paid him to take us like 150 miles, like, wasn't such a bad deal.
$2,400.
42.
Sorry, 42.
42.
That's me and my dyslexia catching up to me. Yeah.
$4,200. He and the tow guys, I mean, honestly, to me, that's extortion. Like, that's excessive. And he's all like, well, the police officers wouldn't let us tow them together. I'm like, sure.
Right.
Like, and at this point, what can you do?
Right. And
so there's nothing wrong. There's no damage. Luckily, he didn't hit anybody. Yeah. Nothing happens. But they had to bring 2 tow trucks out, one for the trailer and one for the truck.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, crazy. $4,200.
So, okay, 6 miles to get it to town.
Yeah.
And then what? Can you sub somebody in? What do you do in that situation?
So at this point, we start to kind of look into what our options are. And Nate talks to the broker, and the broker is livid.
Yeah.
I think it was like some quiche for Starbucks or something.
Oh, geez.
And so we're trying to figure out, okay, what can we do here? The broker is just like going crazy.
Mad at you.
Mad at us.
Yeah.
And Nate's so I'm in a position where I can't really just pick up and go. He's in a position where he can't really just pick up and go. But Nate went and talked to his bosses in Colorado, And they were super understanding and said, yeah, go take care of it. So Nate actually that very night got on a plane, flew from Denver to Oklahoma City, got in that night, that very same night, and was able to pick the truck, get it out of impound the next morning, and get back on the road. And so he actually got out of his military duty for a few days, drove it all the way to Ohio, delivered the load, and he actually ended up delivering the load only 18 hours late. And so then at this point, the broker's like...
And the quiche is fine.
The quiche is fine.
It's fine.
It was just fine. And the broker at this point's actually pretty happy. Like he's...
Like you guys took care of it.
Yeah, he said, we have never had a situation like that. Like this, this kind of stuff happens in trucking.
Sure.
Whether it's that kind of thing or something different where there's issues with the load. We've never had anybody jump on it like that and get it resolved that quickly. And so we actually ended up getting some credibility with the broker, and they've given us quite a few more loads since, because they were happy to see how we responded to the situation.
So this wasn't I accidentally dinged a side view mirror in the yard. This was, I was not expecting this, Chris. That's a big deal.
It was a pretty big deal. Luckily, nothing worse happened. I mean, this guy could have killed somebody.
Oh yeah,
easily. The way he was driving and how erratic he was, he could have killed somebody, and it could have been 10 times worse. And we're kind of glad and thankful it wasn't worse. Nate ended up, I think he ended up missing about 4 or 5 days of his annual training because he drove all the way to Ohio, picked up another load, came all the way back to Utah, dropped the load back off in Utah, and then flew back to Colorado.
Oh, jeez.
So
and of course those flights have to go on the Haulin Assets ledger.
Yeah. So all in all, with the tow bill and everything else, it was about $5,000.
Ay. Well, okay. When you say tow bill's $4,200, the rest of that, it sounds like you guys got away easy on the rest of it.
It could have been.
Could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse.
My gosh. Well,
learned a few things.
I'm tempted to look down at my notes and see where we're going to go from here, but I'm just going to go ahead and start scraping my jaw off the floor and let you continue. My gosh, that's okay. So please don't drink and drive.
Yeah,
that's I assume it was drinking. Could have been something else, but anyway, that's bananas.
Yeah, it actually wasn't drinking.
Oh, something else.
It was something harder than that.
Okay. All right.
And so that's kind of the weird thing is like we'd screened, drug test. Everything came back clean, nothing in the clearinghouse. And I think part of this is just the fact that he was going through turmoil in his life and trying to find a way to cope with it and
chose the wrong thing.
Chose absolutely the wrong thing. And so that kind of the lesson for us, I think, in this is I think it'll be a little while before we ever feel like we're going to hire somebody that's in the midst of going through something like that. It's like, okay, give us a call in 30 days. Let's kind of see how things have settled down. Some people, that's one of the things I learned in the military when I was deployed. Like there are some people that handle a deployment in a dangerous area really well, and some other people it just messes with their mind. And I think that's kind of the way relationships go too. Some people can break up and end a relationship with a significant other and be just fine. Others, like it messes with them mentally.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's always good to remember things from the employer's situation, right? So you guys are thinking, we like you said, we want to give this guy a chance. We want to give him whatever, a second chance, some charity, some whatever. Understand that just because he's going through it doesn't mean he can't drive a truck. But on the other hand, now you're thinking, well, shoot, if this happens, more often, it's going to tank our reputation. We're not able to get the loads we need. Suddenly we're selling trucks and laying off drivers, and where we want to be able to employ people and, benefit the industry, whatever. Now we're in a position where we're a drain, and now we can't, now we can't help anybody. That's a tricky spot to be in. So anyway, Chris,
it's actually a pretty good segue into this book review, because there's a lot of lessons in this book review that kind of relate to this kind of a difficult challenge in the course of doing business.
Right. Okay. Well, as you say, it's a good lead in. So the book is Can't Hurt Me, Master Your Mind and Defy the Odds. Okay. So this was written by a Marine. Yes.
Navy SEAL.
Navy
David
SEAL.
Goggins.
Boy. Oh, I hope he didn't hear me say that.
Marines are actually part of the Navy.
Right.
And so they feed into the Navy SEAL program too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
All
I
right,
mean, you're
well.
not too far off.
All right. Well, still.
It's not like you said he was in the Army and he was really a Navy SEAL. Or
Or the
worse, the
National
Air
Guard.
Force. Yeah, he's in the Air Force. And
Now, tell me about this book and why you wanted to talk about it for today and why this topic feeds into it.
well, I happened to be reading it, or actually listening to it on Audible, as I was deciding, hey, what do I want to do for the podcast episode this week? Because it really, I think we should be doing a financial episode.
Yeah, we're scheduled to do one, but sometimes things just don't work out that way.
I just, we're a little bit behind in getting the financials prepped. So I was thinking, what do I want to do? And I'm reading this book, and there's a lot of really good life lessons. A lot of the things that we talk about kind of feed into this book too. So I just thought it'd be a good time while it's fresh on my mind to talk about the book and some of the things that I learned about it, and hopefully share it with the audience and really encourage them to read it as well. Because there's just a lot of really good messages, a lot of, coming over difficult challenges in life. How do you get past those and really reach your full potential as a person?
And I skimmed through some of it, and I like the format of this book. It's always nice when a book is easily digestible, right? Especially a book that's going to be giving you life advice. So this one is very much along those lines, where he gives you, like, here are the 10 life lessons you need to know, or however he phrases it.
Life lessons and challenges. Like he issues 10 challenges that are typically tied to some kind of lesson that he learned in his life, whether it was going through Bud's training as a Navy SEAL, or he's also a world-renowned endurance sports athlete. The guys that run 100 miles, like one of the ones that he did was the Badwater 135. It's 135 miles through Death Valley.
Oh,
yeah, can you imagine? Wouldn't that be fun?
So what you're saying is this man is the exact opposite of me.
Is that
what you, okay. All right.
Much. Both of us.
All right.
Yeah. So he's got a lot of cool things, and it's really interesting. He grew up under kind of some difficult circumstances. Like his home life and family life in his younger years was not good.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things he talks a little bit about.
And it's not to get too philosophical, but interesting how sometimes that can, forge a man into steel, and other times it can really, really whip you.
Yeah.
In not such good ways.
It can. And that's kind of one of the things that he talks a little bit about that. And that's why I'm not going to try to spoil it. I want to talk about 7 of the things that I kind of learned a little bit from this, give you a little bit of a teaser into it, and hopefully, like I said, encourage people to read it, because I think it is one of those things that even if you take just one of the challenges that he issues or take one lesson out of this book, it'll be well worth your time.
Okay, well, let's get started. You said you've got a few that you wanted to go through. Let's start with your first favorite one out of here.
Life is not fair, and you kind of have to get past that and crush life. And so, kind of as I had alluded to, like, he had a rough childhood, and really even his early years as an adult, as he was kind of trying to figure things out, it was kind of a rough time for him.
So when you say crush life, is that like, I don't know, that sounds very, grab the bull by the horns or some cliche like that.
One of the things that he talks a lot about is he feels like most people only live up to 40% of their potential. And so it's really just about living up to your full potential. That's really what the premise of this book is we can do more than we think we can do. Yeah. And we should all strive to really live up to our potential. And he's done that in his life. One of my very best friends in the entire world, same thing. He grew up under, like, not the greatest family life as a kid, and has been really successful in life. He kind of pushed past that. So, life's not always fair. Some people are born into a family where you're given every opportunity, and other people aren't. And some people just pull themselves out of it and move on with life and do really well. And that's kind of, part of the premises of this book is, life's not fair. Deal with it and live up to your potential.
There you go. It's reminds me of one of my pet concepts, and that is that gratitude is about the ultimate weapon in your arsenal. No matter what circumstance you came from, find the things to be grateful for, whether it's the things you're born with or the things you've made for yourself, whatever it is, find the things to be grateful for, and it'll fuel just what we're talking about here, being able to crush life, as he says. Recognize that life isn't fair, and maybe it wasn't fair to you, but maybe it wasn't fair to somebody else. And recognizing, your privilege, to use a buzzword of the last decade or so, it can be a powerful thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so number 2, Chris.
Number 2 is he has this thing that he calls an accountability mirror, and he says to create an accountability mirror. And it's basically, he just says to take Post-it notes, put your insecurities on it, your goals in life on it, your dreams, that kind of thing, put them on Post-it notes and keep them on your mirror. The mirror that you shave when you're looking at it, you're doing your hair.
I love that hesitation. You look over me that when you shave.
Oh yeah, you don't do that.
You freaking hipster, Craig.
Okay, when you put your hair in your man bun, that mirror.
Go. Yes, okay, got it. And if you're watching on YouTube, well, there you go. There's your man bun right there. All right.
People just threw up.
All
so
right.
it just helps you be kind of self-aware, and it holds you accountable. Like, if you've got a goal that you're striving for, and if you're looking at that every day as you're kind of getting ready for the day, it kind of just helps you keep focused and realize, hey, this is something I want to do. I'm going to do it.
Okay. And so that's the good and the bad stuff on that
mirror.
mirror.
And so the insecurities, like your weaknesses, that's just, it reminds you of those, so that you're working on them constantly, trying to improve them and trying to get better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Keep it front of mind. Number 3 then, it would be what, Chris?
And this is one that I've talked quite a bit about. Get out of your comfort zone. And it's just do things that you're afraid of, do things that you're not good at. For instance, in trucking, talking directly to shippers and, developing and building those relationships, or confronting a driver that may not be doing the exact thing that they're supposed to. It's really doing those little things that you don't feel comfortable with that are really going to have impacts in your business. And sometimes it's easier said than done, but if you don't do those things, you're not going to live up to your full potential.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. I have nothing to add to that. Number 4 then.
Be willing to work harder than the next person.
Okay. All right. Here's where we diverge, Chris, because I'm a naturally lazy person. Okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe not that lazy, but all right. Convert me.
Really being willing to work harder than the next person. And I think this is one of the things that's really has been a blessing and impactful in my life is I'm a pretty dang hard worker. Even from high school on, like when a lot of my friends were playing or doing something, I was home studying. Or in the summertime when my friends were chilling out and hanging out, I moved up to I was hauling pipe, moving pipe, hauling hay, working on the farm 80 hours a week as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. And that, that willingness to work harder in a lot of ways. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the strongest guy, but I'm
really need to work on that man bun.
I can't grow my hair out. The thing that kind of sets me apart is not my innate talent or ability. It's really just I'm willing to work harder than most other people.
Yeah. And what would you say to somebody who didn't have that growing up, who didn't have farm life or kind of a military background or something where that just doesn't come naturally to them? How do you have any words of advice for somebody who's like, gosh, that just sounds hard?
That's just that's one of those things that in number 7, the sheet that I sent you only had 6. I added a 7th one. And the 7th one's going to talk a little bit about that, but it's really getting out of your comfort zone, being willing to push yourself kind of more than you're used to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the next one then is number 5.
And this is one that I actually really like. I think it's pretty cool. And this is something that most truck drivers are going to be able to relate to. You know what a governor is in a car or in a truck?
Yeah. Or in the little Hot Wheels that my kid rode around when he was 3. Yeah. Sure.
It prevents your car from going past a certain speed, right? Yeah. And, he says that our brains can be a governor for us too. We kind of limit what we think we can do based off, our self-doubt or a lot of different things. And so he says, remove the governor from your brain. So that you're not limited to that 40%.
Yeah, makes sense.
That most people only kind of achieve.
Yeah, I saw some of those movies in the 90s. What was that John Travolta one? Or powder or whatever. Yeah, I totally know how the brain works. So
You've lost me. I don't know what that one is.
Those who know what I'm talking about will have great fun with those idiotic references from 30 years ago. Chris, all right, so remove the governor from your brain.
Yep.
Now, is this kind of like the mirror thing, the accountability mirror, where it's kind of a positive and a negative thing? The governor can hold you back, but also maybe accelerate you too fast down the wrong path or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to think through what this would actually mean. And I'm sure he talks about it a lot in the book.
He talks a lot about it in the book, but it just really boils down to we're all more capable than we think we are. And so don't let that limiting factor of what you think you're capable of be the determining factor of what you actually are capable of, because we can typically do more than we think. That's one of the lessons I learned. So I went through, I think we maybe talked about this. It's called the Sapper Leader course. It's like the engineer version of Ranger School in the Army. Yeah. And you go a long time without eating, a long time without sleeping, and you just do some incredibly physically difficult things. And you realize that your body and your mind is much more capable than you think it is. Like I never would have thought I would have been able to physically march and move as far as I did without eating.
Oh, but right.
You can. Your body is incredibly capable and your mind's incredibly resilient.
All right. Well, then number 6, if we move on, what is the 6th one? The final one that I know of.
Be uncommon. There's a lot of normal people out there. Don't be one of them.
I love this. I love this one actually because I love this one actually because when I was just talking to my nieces, I went out to visit my nieces in Indiana, and I took them out to dinner, and they're in junior high age, give or take. So they're in junior high, and they're talking about what's going on with the kids at school and all that stuff. And I said, "Oh man, and they're also weirdos in the best possible way, total weirdos." And they're talking about, it's kind of tough to be as different as we are. And I was like, it's going to suck right now. I can't stop it from sucking right now, and I'm not going to try. But I will tell you that one day you'll see a switch that will get flipped, and everybody who was trying so hard to be exactly like everybody else will suddenly want to, wish that they were as different and idiosyncratic as you are. And I love that little switch in life when it gets flipped. It's fun to see people kind of come into their own. So is that the kind of thing we're talking about, embracing your individuality and knowing that, you're not like everybody else and you don't need to be?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. And it's one of those things, be uncommon. A lot of the times the common person is going to push themselves to one certain level, but, he challenges people to be uncommon and push yourself past that, to a level that is far beyond what normal people would do. And he says that that's when you're truly going to live life and you're truly going to enjoy what you do.
Love it. Well, Chris, you had a surprise 7th. Dare I ask?
So the 7th one it's kind of similar to, what was it? Number 3, get out of your comfort zone.
Right.
It's be willing to suffer. I think part of it is just, in our society these days, we kind of seek comfort, right? We don't want to suffer. We don't want to go through difficulties. And I think a lot of times, even to a fault, we shield our children from, some of the more difficult things in life that are ultimately going to make them stronger as people. And so we shouldn't avoid those situations. It's like, I can think of 2 really good examples of, how suffering is important. Well, I can think of, I want to talk a little bit about athletes. You think about an athlete.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, working out is prime example number 1, right?
That's example number 1. When you work out, that makes, it hurts while you're doing it, but it makes your body stronger.
Right.
The thing, and then I've got 2 examples kind of from my life where I feel like suffering has led to greater blessings. And the first one's really financial. Well, they're both financial. I drove the same car. I think I probably talked about this a little bit. 1997 Honda Civic for 16, 17 years. And, people made fun of me. I got all kinds of crap because I was driving this old crappy beater car, but that financial sacrifice and that willingness to suffer financially in the long run made it so that I could now afford much better and much nicer cars. And then the other one is kind of with our apartments. Instead of buying a house, kind of once I finally started making a decent amount of money and could afford to go out and buy a house, my wife and I went out and bought some rental properties. We bought a fourplex, lived in it for a few years, moved on, bought another one. And so that was a way for us to kind of, suffer or sacrifice financially. We weren't living in the greatest neighborhoods. We weren't living in, relatively small homes, not super big, but in the long run, those apartments have been a huge financial success and blessing in our lives. And so being willing to make, sacrifices and suffer a little bit in the short term oftentimes brings back huge dividends in the long run.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Chris, we're not going to give the other 3 points that Goggins brings up.
And those weren't always necessarily his points.
Oh, these are just
kind of things. Some of them were his points. Some of them were things that I just kind of felt like I got from it.
Right. Well, anyway, I my point just being, we didn't give you the whole book. So go read the book. It's in the show notes, yes?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So go check it out in the show notes. It's one of those things, it's funny how we all receive the same message in different ways. Where, I love fiction, Chris. I love fiction, and you love nonfiction. And obviously there's a Venn diagram here, right? There's overlap. But however you get these messages, absorb them in some way, right? And it'll help you in your personal life, your business life, what have you. So go check out the book. Chris, any parting thoughts or impact tips for today?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, everybody, thanks for listening. I'm sorry it wasn't a financials episode, but, you're getting this podcast for free, so you get what we give you. So I'm sure we'll have another financials episode soon, and we'll get you all caught up on what has happened in October, November, and so on.
Yep. So we'll cover that next time.
There you go. All right, Chris, I will see you next time after I go to HaulinAssetsLLC.com and MotorCarrierHQ.com and check everything out.
Nice plug.
Do you like that?
Yeah.
All right. See you next time.